Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts on the tongue of Sidna Musa alayhi salam in the Quran the following dua. Sidna Musa alayhi salam says to his Lord, Rabbi zidni ilman, O my sustainer, increase me in knowledge. And the Prophet ﷺ says in a Sahih Hadith, Talibul ilmu faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslimat. It is obligatory on every Muslim man and woman to seek knowledge. On the night of the Miraj, the Prophet ﷺ looked into the fire, and he saw that most of the inhabitants of the fire were poor. The Sahabis radiallahu ta'ala anhum asked him, were these poor people who had no money? And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, no, they were people who had no knowledge and learning. The Prophet ﷺ also said, it is the fortunate who are granted knowledge, and it is the unfortunate who are without knowledge. And we find in the Quran, Allah says, Inana yakhsha Allahu min ibadihi al-ulama. Truly, it is the knowledgeable who have the khashua, or the humility, or the humbleness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah 35:28. So from these ayat and from these hadith, Sahih hadith, you see that the status of knowledge for the Muslim. First of all, it's absolutely fard upon the Muslim man and the Muslim woman. The Prophet says, Talibul ilmu faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslimat. Those people who keep their women ignorant are disobeying the Prophet ﷺ. Allah says, Ati Allah wa ati Rasuluhu. Obey Allah and obey His Messenger. If you keep your women from knowledge, if you keep your daughters from knowledge, you are disobedient to the Prophet ﷺ, because he said that it's fard upon all Muslim men and Muslim women to seek the knowledge. No less a prophet than Musa alayhi salam, who has high standing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah puts on his tongue, Rabbi zidni ilman, O Allah, increase me in knowledge. He tells us that those are the people in the fire, who are the poor people in the fire. Immediately we think poor, we think lack of money. And the Prophet ﷺ says, no, not lack of money, lack of knowledge, lack of learning. And who is fortunate? The fortunate, the person who is successful. Hayal al-salat, hayal al-falat, the falahin. Who are those who are successful? The successful people are those who are granted knowledge. And those who are unfortunate, that is, who are really truly miskeen, are those who have no knowledge. This knowledge is the means of the khashua. The khashua, or the humility before Allah. It is this khushu' that the Prophet ﷺ spoke about when he spoke about the various gates to the Jannah. He says the gate to the Jannah, which is very wide but very low, is that of humility. Humility before Allah. Knowledge of Allah gives you the humility of Allah. The people who have no knowledge are the people who are arrogant, because they think that they're something. When you have knowledge of Allah, you know that you're nothing. When you know that you're nothing, you have the khashua'. When you have the khashua', it means that the bab of that humility, the door of the humility, the gate of the humility is open to you. So if we take these ayat and these hadith into and understand the aggregate of them, we understand that the acquisition of ilm, or knowledge, is both obligatory, fard, for both the Muslim man, and I stress for the Muslim women as well. And also it is the means of their well-being. It is the means of their being successful both in this world and the next. A person's ilm cannot be sound. A person's actions cannot be sound unless he knows the effects of his inner actions on his outer actions, and from which the inner actions to refrain from for the deterioration in their results or the determining of the outer. For instance, nobody knows if you're proud inside of yourself. Nobody knows about the pride inside of yourself. But this pride, if you have this pride, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ says that whoever has an atom of pride will never enter a dhur, literally, of pride will never enter into the Jannah. But this inner state is not seen by anybody. Nobody knows if you are an arrogant person or what's going on inside of you. They're not aware of your inner state. But if that inner state is not correct, it changes your outer state insofar as it makes all of your actions, because you'll never enter into the garden if you have this arrogance inside of yourself. So that's very important to understand in the acquisition of knowledge, the relationship between the inner and the outer. How the inner, nobody sees the inner, nobody can see. Everybody's in a row here, everybody's in a line. Well, I can't see his heart. Well, it says the Prophet said, only Allah knows the hearts of the people. We don't know. But if your inner state is not correct, then it will have an adverse effect on your outer state. That's why he says knowledge, rather than making people arrogant, which you would think that it is, real knowledge, not false knowledge, but real knowledge is what gives you what? Khushu'.